Hey guys, this is Matthew. I wanted to do this quick tutorial video on essentially, the black arrow tool and the white arrow tool. The more technical term for these things, if you take your cursor and uh, you know, hover over the black arrow tool and the white arrow tool, the black arrow tool is simply called the selection tool. And by the way, the hotkey is V on your keyboard. And the white arrow tool is called the direct selection tool. And the hotkey on your keyboard is A. Try to get into a habit of using those hotkeys early on in this process, and it'll just sort of be second nature as you're using this application and really other Adobe applications down the road. And so the black arrow tool is really a bread and butter operation, something that you should be and will be pretty darn familiar with. Um, Illustrator is object based. And so you're constantly just kind of moving things around with these arrow tools. And so I can, with my mouse, I can just kind of drag things around, select. Um, I can click away also with the black arrow tool. So not only can I select an object, but it's very common in Illustrator where you want to deselect. And really, in order to deselect, all you have to do is just simply click away. Okay. And so when you want to reselect that object, you literally just click directly on the object. Okay. And that goes for any of these different, types of forms that you would have on your artboard. Okay, so I'm going to click away so I can start over, and I'm going to select the red rectangle. And when I do that, you'll notice that these little handles kind of show up here, which are very, very handy. Um, no pun intended. So I can grab these handles and I can change the shape of this object really easily. And those are just, the top, the sides and the bottom. I can also do it from the corners. And so I can sort of, change the shape by just grabbing this handle in the corner, and you kind of move your mouse over here and you can kind of see how it affects things. Now I'm going to click away and deselect, and I'm going to select the yellow, or excuse me, yeah, the yellow star for a moment. So click, and what I want to do is I want to rotate this star with the selection tool or the black arrow tool. So if you put your cursor up here in one of these corners, you'll see that it kind of changes shape. Then you can just kind of literally just, rotate this sort of thing manually. And again, same thing, you can just grab this object and move it around. These are bread and butter operations in Adobe Illustrator. Um, the other thing that you'll notice when you select an object is you have these little corners, and what you can do is you can round the corners of a rectangle by simply grabbing that little tiny dot. Let me zoom in so you can see it a little bit more clearly. There's this tiny dot right there. And it's kind of fun too because you can kind of see how Illustrator kind of changes, the cursor changes slightly when you get close to it. So if you drag that dot and then bring it in, notice how all four of the corners are becoming modified, okay, with that dot. And I'm doing that with the black arrow tool, all right? So I'm gonna hit Command Z for undo a couple times and get back to the regular square or rectangle rather. So the next thing I want to do is I want to move to the white arrow selection tool or direct selection tool with the shortcut A. So I'm going to hit A on my keyboard, and you can kind of see it just kind of switches over. And um, once I do that, it's kind of interesting. And I'm going to back up and do that one more time. I'm going to select the object with the black arrow tool, and then midway with my keyboard, I'm just going to hit A. And watch how the selection sort of, I guess, the way it looks changes. Okay, so I'm going to hit A, boom. And now, instead of having these handles, I've got these anchor points that are exposed. And in my classes, I basically kind of jokingly talk about the black arrow tool being sort of more of a surface area selection tool, and the white arrow tool being more of a deep tissue massage selection tool. So it kind of dives into the details a little bit. And so that's why these anchor points are now exposed. But if you double click on an anchor point and then drag it around, and I can drag it this way, I can deselect, select the object again, those anchor points reappear. I can double click in, grab that anchor point and move it again. Notice how if I don't double click, let's see, actually, it's not true. I have this habit thinking that you have to double, oh, here we go. So sometimes you can actually select an object by the anchor point as well, which is really handy. There we go. So if you select, sometimes that's necessary because you're trying to snap two anchor points together. And I think that's really crucial information early in the game, just for your information. So you can select an object with the white arrow tool, and then you can sort of grab that object, not by just any point, but by the anchor point, which is really handy because you can come up here to view, snap, snap to point, which basically means, let's say you have two objects. Let's say I want to snap this anchor point to that anchor point on this yellow star. Watch this. And look at how those guys just kind of start talking to each other. And now I've got these two anchor points right up next to each other. That's a very, very handy move that you can do with the white arrow tool, okay? All right, so same thing, you can grab these sort of dots that are close to the corners. You can take it a step further by selecting an anchor point, and then that deselects all those other dots, and now I only have one dot here. So if you just want to talk to one of these edges, and then you want to change the curvature, you can do so with the white arrow tool. You cannot do that with the black arrow tool. You can only select one of these corners with the white arrow tool, all right? Let's move to this circle, and let's actually backstep to the black arrow tool for a moment. So I'm going to select the circle, and notice how we've got these handles. Another cool thing about the black arrow tool, you can change these shapes. You can kind of squish these things, no problem, no big deal. But let's say, for example, I mean, you've made a perfect square and you want it to remain perfect. In fact, this is something I see very common. It happens all the time in my classes where students will take objects and they will unknowingly distort them, especially if they place a photograph or something like that inside of Illustrator to trace or to work with as a reference. They unknowingly distort or manipulate the image by just grabbing these anchor points and changing things. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can actually, with your left pinky, maybe hold Shift. Look at this. I can change the size of this object by simply holding Shift, and it will not distort that circle. Okay? That is very, very handy stuff right there that I just showed you. Okay, so now let's talk about anchor points and handles. So I'm going to select the object with the black arrow tool, and then midway I'm going to hit A on my keyboard and switch to the white arrow tool. And I'm going to click on this anchor point, and notice how I clicked on the anchor point and these beautiful handles showed up. And you can kind of modify the object even further according to these Bezier curves by just kind of dragging. And you can drag them out. You can sort of, move them around. This my advice is just to kind of open up Illustrator and experiment with this, but this is very, very bread and butter handy stuff as well. The black arrow tool cannot do that, only the white arrow tool. While I'm here, I also want to talk about removing anchor points. I think I'm just going to input that really quickly. Like, let's say, for example, you have this beautiful circle and you want to remove that anchor point just to kind of, you don't need it maybe. So I have a separate video talking about the pen tool, but I think it is kind of handy to mention that you can delete an anchor point with, you have to hold down this tool, come down here to delete, and click it. Okay, pretty fun. And then I can go back to the white arrow tool by clicking the tool on the left-hand side, or I can hit A. And then again, I can double click the object. I can grab that handle. I can start kind of playing with things. Okay. So now let's play around with the star tool. It's a little bit more dynamic. I can select these anchor points, manipulate them, move them around. Right now, I just have that one anchor point selected, and I have the white arrow tool engaged, and that's why I only see that one dot. So I can make that one corner curved. Okay. Pretty incredible. Then I switched to the black arrow tool just so I can simply move it around. And then sometimes you just want to delete an object, select it with the black arrow tool, and then hit delete on your keyboard, and it will go away. Okay, I think that's plenty of information about the black arrow tool and white arrow tools for right now, but this is bread and butter operations in Adobe Illustrator. Thanks, guys.